Working Hands Radio.
And good evening, everybody. This is Phil Kerner, and welcome to Working Hands Radio. Hope you enjoyed that little intro and what we do there. A lot of guys sent me some pictures of their workspaces and what they do every day, and it's awfully nice to see that stuff. I still get a kick out of watching this montage. So thanks for sending those in. Love to see how other guys set up their work areas. So good evening. Again, I'm Phil Kerner. You guys know me as the Tool and Die Guy online. And again, this is Working Hands Radio. It's Tuesday, July 24th, and we're broadcasting live tonight from Erie, Pennsylvania, the jewel of the Rust Belt. You are listening to the only show like it on planet Earth. This isn't a podcast because we're live tonight, and we're going to take your phone calls. There's no politics here, but if you work with your hands, if you build really cool things every day, well, then this is where you belong for the next hour. So grab a beer, sit back, and let's talk about it. So, your trade, your calls, your program. You know, I have to say the vision for this program was always to bring you guys together. You know, we can snipe at each other on Facebook all day long, right? But the ability to put your pictures and the stuff together with other craftsmen, the photos and the stories, what we're really here to do tonight is to tell your stories. Again, this isn't a podcast. I don't want to go on and on by myself for half an hour. You guys and gals who are listening tonight are the secret sauce to Working Hands Radio. So please call in tonight. That would be awesome. So as usual, we got a lot to talk about tonight. In just a few moments, we'll open up the toll-free number. And as I said, because without you, we don't have a phone call. So the drill is here. If you've never listened to this program before, first thing we always do is roll call. And what I like to do is see who's out there and check in. Name and where you're listening from. That is a lot of fun to see what's going on out there in the world and who's listening to the program. I'm actually checking social media right now. So let me just turn the webcam on just for a second here. Let's see here. Well, you know, I always have this in order, and then I somehow move it around, and there we go. Good evening, and welcome again to Working Hands Radio. So, we talked about, I put a promo up there last night, and as you know, if you've ever listened to the program before, very pro-business here. I used to own my own shop, and I'm one of those guys that believes that I like my shop owner where I work now and to make a lot of money, right? Because if he's making money and he can buy himself nice things, well, that should all trickle down, and we should get new equipment occasionally and benefits, and healthy shop is a good thing, right? And I think we'd all agree with that. And if you've been around the tool and die trade for as long as I have, we kind of got smashed, right? And I don't know what it's like in your town, and that's why we're here to talk about it. But one of the things we talk about. But here in Erie, we have this big General Electric plant, and as that plant kind of goes, so does Erie. Well, it's not going so well, right? And I think I mentioned this on a previous program earlier this year. There was an announcement that GE is no longer going to build locomotives here. They're going to maybe build some specialty ones, but all that work's leaving. So as GE goes, Erie goes. But the one thing nobody ever talks about is all the tool and die shops that used to be here. And you know, with General Electric, with the union, that was those were high-paying jobs. But those great tool making jobs that provided those apprenticeships and those math skills and geometry and mold making, you know, that's a shell of what it used to be too. So I'm going to take just a second here then and make sure you don't have to stare at me while I'm checking the social media. So please take a moment to check in. Let me see what we've got here. And we'll get right back into tonight's story. As I did mention before, we are pro-business here, and tonight's story is a little bit about that. So right now, my Facebook page, I'm just trying to find the live feed on my phone, which doesn't seem to be there anywhere. We'll find it eventually. So quickly, I said last night, I posted tonight's teaser was a story called Two Tombstones and a Cow, right? And with that setup, when I'm talking about owning your own shop, owning your own business. Now, once in a while, some knucklehead will, throw a comment on, because it is the internet, right? And I listened to your program the other night. You don't talk about tool and die. Well, I'm not going to get into speeds and feeds here, okay? And mold building. This is more of a tool and die, blue collar perspective on things, stories of the trade. On my website, the Tool and Die Guy, I cover a lot of stuff over there. 343 videos and lessons over there on tool making, machining. But the purpose of this program was to just maybe bring you guys together, give you guys some information you might not normally get from somebody who does this every day. Because aren't you getting tired of being talked at and talked to by people that have no idea what you do all day? How you a simple thing, drilling and tapping a hole and the minor diameter is too big, right? I mean, that's just a small thing. So your host here sits in your seat stands in your position every day. So I get it, right? When you listen to this program, you're listening to somebody that's been doing this for over 40 years. So believe me, no pretenses here. But let's see here. Let's get to the top story tonight. And as I said, 2 tombstones and a cow. Well, it all starts right here. And this is a cemetery in Quincy, Massachusetts. 2 small stones there, Alan White and Esther White. And that story, and if any of that family is listening tonight, there are a lot of details of the story. And of course, I'm not going to go over every single one, but give you guys the big picture of what you can do when you own your own business. So, some businesses, they make it big, right? Some businesses just barely hang on, and some don't make it. And we all know, it's tough to be in business. Every day is a challenge. But I have this term I like. Sometimes you'll find a business, and we have a few left here in Erie. They're just a beautiful business, right? They stand the test of time, and the community benefits, the employee benefits. It just makes a difference. Some businesses just do the right thing, and they are in the right place at the right time. But they also work very hard at making sure they do the best with that opportunity. So, the point of the story is that any manufacturing is a boost to our economy. And you're going to see this one isn't about tool and die making, but it's still about manufacturing. And as I said earlier, I just had a note here. Once you've owned your own business, you'll never, ever look at things the same way again. You're just too busy. You're too busy to be offended by all the stuff everybody else is offended by on online, right? Because what you're doing there is you're looking for new clients, you're satisfying the ones you have, you're making payroll, negotiating healthcare plans, dealing with employees. You grow up when you run your own shop, that's for sure. And I also want to make sure, owning your own business is without a doubt it's the most intense education you'll ever get. And I don't care, if you have a PhD in anything, the stuff that that's thrown at you on a daily basis is mind-numbing. And a lot of people aren't ready for it. Just because you're a great tool maker or great mechanic, running a business doesn't always. Some of the most successful businessmen I know, and especially in the tool and die trade, they were okay tool makers. They were okay, but they were excellent businessmen, because you have to have a lot of energy and stamina, and you have to be very nimble and flexible just to survive. Most don't. So back to Quincy, Massachusetts. Those 2 tombstones. And like Paul Harvey used to say, here's the rest of the story. So let's take a look at these 2 guys. And Alan and Edwin White, 2 brothers. And back in 1913, 14, Mom bought a cow. Big family. And they thought the cow would kind of help take care of the family's needs, right? Well, these 2 brothers started selling the extra milk to their neighbors, and they started to buy some more cows right after high school. And that's when the White Brothers Milk Company was born. They would grow in size to over 500 employees and operated 4 creameries in Vermont and New Hampshire. And they delivered dairy products to homes and markets on 250 different delivery vehicles. Check this out. There you go. That's how you deliver milk in the 1930s, okay? The milk truck. So pretty cool stuff there. So the one brother, Edwin, in 1947, has a debilitating stroke. He's out. And 3 years later, Alan has a heart attack and dies at his desk. Life changes, right? Now, this is what I know about this part of the story. There's a little bit of a concern there with the investors, the bankers and stuff, because everybody was dead. So the young sons had to come in and run the company, but the bank kind of took over. They put into the estate. The kids couldn't really own the company, so they fought for several years to get control back over the company. And the oldest brother, Alan, he was 23 years old, and he left Georgetown to take over the reins. And I know the story there was he was very blessed to have a lot of great guys at the White Brothers Milk Company that mentored him. So eventually his brothers, Robert and Donald, would enter the business with the benefit of, I think Robert went to Wharton Business School and Donald went to Cornell. So when they finally got the business back from the bank in 1959, they sold it. And I never knew that part until I talked to Robert a few months ago, and because they saw the future. And the future of their business was ice cream. So the way they built this business over the decades and throughout the years was through a series of acquisitions, and they could see the merging this ice cream business and the frozen foods together in the same delivery system. And if you think about that, that's brilliant, right? So it was all about refrigerated buildings and trucks, and they already had them. So if you grew up in the 60s, maybe you remember a company named Birdseye. I don't even know if they're still around, but frozen vegetables were a big deal. I don't know if they still are, but I remember my mother was always bringing bags of frozen vegetables home. Well, they got on that train too. So then, they were aggressively pushing their different ice cream products, and I've got a really fun picture here. I hope this is the right one. Those are the three brothers from left to right. That's Donald, Robert, and Alan. And that's them with their novelty ice cream bars. And as far as I know, the Hershey's Crunch Bar, that was their idea. So these guys built a pretty good business there. And the years went by, then they started having their own kids. And the most amazing part about this story is the grandfather there, Alan, who passed away in 1950. He began a trust fund, and this is a guy who never went to college, but somehow he had it in his head college education would be good for his grandchildren. Well, he started this trust fund many years ago, and it grew. I guess it was very conservative, but for many, many years, things grow. And what ended up happening there, and I know lots of parts of the story, but as they grew older, they began to divest their interest in this business, and they eased into their retirement. Pretty wealthy guys. But there's a good story to this now. What you do with your money. And this is what a business can do. Thanks to that one cow in 1914 and these two enterprising guys, 23 grandchildren all went to college, paid for. Think about that. You're trying to pay for 2 or 3 kids to go to college. This estate funded 23 kids going to college. And but you know what the funny part is? None of them ever went into the family business. And reading between the lines, it just sounded like they wanted their kids to do their own thing, go into their own fields. And the reality is they probably didn't want to deal with 23 different kids at the company fighting for control, right? Probably a smart idea. But that could be the end of that story, right? But not quite yet. Every few years, there's this massive family reunion up in New England somewhere, usually around Boston, right? And it's 100% paid for by this family, right? Now we're talking about 100 people up in New England, and all you have to basically do is pay for your gas to get there and your gas to get home. That's the meals, the drinks, the hotel rooms, and everything. And and we're talking lobster dinners on Saturday night for 100 people. I mean, these guys put it out there, So again, what you do with your money? We always hear about the greedy business guys, and not all of them are. And this is a story I wanted to share with you tonight. So this is what it looks like when all those people get together here. Let's see here. It's the best I could do. We lined everybody up on the beach, and there's about 100 there. I couldn't even fit them all in the picture I took, right? But over the years, I've gone on to collect some fun things from the White Brothers Company, and I've got an old milk bottle, the White Brothers, that creamy milk, and wait till you see this one. They have a Lionel train, White Brothers Lionel train You can still buy it, I think. I got this one brand new in the box on eBay. White Brothers, North Quincy, Massachusetts. And that little logo there was Donald White, one of the brothers when he was a baby. And the story there was he was the only living logo in the world at the time. So again, you go back to this picture, Alan and Esther. I don't know where Edwin's buried. But little do those two people know that the business they worked so hard on and invested in for those grandchildren, right up the road, 20 minutes away, a whole new generation, several generations of that family is still enjoying the fruits of their labor because they had the foresight to plan ahead. And that's a beautiful business. You know, you never know what can happen and how many generations can be affected if you just follow your dream. Owning your own place isn't easy, but once you do it, again, you'll never look at life the same. So let's get to the phone lines here. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I get it that it's not always about tool and die making, but you know, manufacturing is a pretty cool thing. And in this case, these guys were marketing dairy products and milk, but that must have been fascinating because you think about that. All the cows and 4 creameries, and they built a big business. And I believe back then most of their business was they serviced pretty much all of Cape Cod. So let's take a look here, and I got to figure this out because one of the things I really enjoy doing here is seeing what's going on with social media tonight. So where are you guys tonight? Where is everybody at? I just need to find my live feed here for some reason. So please bear with me. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to just throw a quick commercial break on here so I can maybe figure the social Facebook feed out so I can see what's going on with you guys, all right? So I'll be right back.
Hi folks, this is Phil Kerner for Working Hands Radio. Let's face it, the last 10 years or so has been one tough ride for American manufacturing. Well, this sponsor of Working Hands Radio has managed to not only get through the last 10 years, but just celebrated their 50th year in business in 2017. Folks, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have to tell you, I've never seen a shop that jumps through more hoops to keep their customers satisfied than Industrial Sales and Manufacturing right here in Erie, Pennsylvania. With over $30 million in equipment on the shop floor, no job is too simple, no job is too complex for ISM. CNC milling and turning, robotic welding, laser cutting, plasma burning, assembly, and powder coating are all done under one roof, which gives ISM a big edge over many companies that might have to subcontract many of those operations out and lose control of the process. Industrial Sales and Manufacturing deals with some of the most demanding customers in the world and strives for continuous improvement on a daily basis. Built in Erie, found around the world. Give them a shot. ISM Erie.
All right, let's see here. We've got some social media action finally. Sorry about that, but who's checking in tonight? Trent from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Hi, Trent. Nick from Maine. Hi, Nick. Been up to Maine. Love Maine. Beautiful up there. What else we have here? Seth from Wisconsin. Michael from Pittsburgh. And I got a couple, let's see. Rob from Minnesota. John from Texas. Awesome, you guys. Thanks so much for checking in tonight. We love you on the show. It's really, that's why we're here. And finally, I'm glad Brad is, we told the story about the White brothers, and Brad is Brad White, Donald's son, and he chimed in with a few things, and he just wanted to make sure I did understand that they also invented the White brothers, the single stick popsicle. So those are pretty enterprising guys. And hey, Brad, I know I truncated that story a little bit tonight, but you guys, that family, what they've done for people and keeping the family together and everything, it's pretty amazing. So we'll keep monitoring the social media. So here's the deal, folks. Quickly, 800-870-1648. And do you own a business? I'd love to hear tonight. What's your story? Or maybe your family owned a business, something like this. Call in. That's why we're here. As I always say, and I already said it a few minutes at the beginning of the program, not a podcast, because podcasts don't take live calls. So the goal here is to put you guys together, and you guys have great stories. And I always have to tease you guys that just because you can see me, when you call in, we won't see you. Okay, we just like you to give us your first name and where you're calling from and what's on your mind. So we'll get you a free hat, the first caller, if you want to give us a call, 800-870-1648. But again, I know my business owners out there, busy guys and gals, but your calls, I'd love to hear your story, because I know what it's like to be in business. It's a tough road, I can tell you that. The tool and die business, it was always a challenge, but the money was there. But things you had to deal with buying large amounts of materials and paying a hefty payroll. Top rate toolmakers aren't cheap, and to see all that work disappear. And I know people complain about you gotta get with it. It's a changing economy. You should never lose your tool and die industry. And I know that sounds biased, and it is, because the tool and die industry is the backbone of manufacturing. Because without tools and dies, you don't have anything. They're the things that pump out those parts, so you can buy stuff for $12 at the store. And you'd be surprised. 16, 18 weeks go into one of these things. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of precision machining and polishing. So you don't want to lose that trade. And my biggest concern, as I've always said about this trade, is that once it's gone, and everybody says, oh, it might come back, or if it does come back, who's going to do it? I mean, I've documented many times on this program, the average age of a tool and die maker in this country is my age, okay? So when you go into the shop anymore, I mean, there might be a few young guys, and they're hungry to learn, but there's not too many guys. Manufacturing doesn't feel safe to a lot of guys and gals. And we've had this conversation last week regarding the millennials. And, of course, we live in 2018. I had to think about the date of the year. And the reality is, somebody's going to be offended by something anybody says. And, we weren't here to pick on the millennials at all. My question was, why would they get in the trade? And if you guys are working with millennials, how are they doing? Because they don't learn the same things we learned growing up, right? More of a hands-on experience, let's just say, fixing your own cars and things like that. I'm not saying it's better. And these guys are technical wizards because they grew up with that. And the trade has gotten more, digital. That's good too. But, sooner or later, somebody's got to go out there and fit that mold or die up and put it together and give it the stamp of approval and ship it to a customer. So, again, thanks for checking in tonight. So, listen, I've got a quick note here. I've got a guy that calls in once in a while. He's a good guy. And if you recall, a couple weeks ago, a guy named John called in. And John runs a really cool place in Dayton called Indicare Gauge Repair. So while I had him on the phone, I asked John, what are the best 3 indicators out there? I mean, here's an expert. He fixes them. He's been fixing them since 1986, right? He told me Interrapid, still number 1. He says, if you can find an old Alina indicator, he says, those are really good. And then I think he said Brown and Sharp. So anyways, I had an old Alina indicator, and he said, and it was my dad's, and I couldn't use it anymore because it was sticky. And if you know anything about dial indicators, they got to repeat and not be sticky. And this one was sticky. So he said, you send that thing in. He says, I'll fix it up for you. Well, I did, and he fixed it up for me. And it's really wonderful to have this thing back at work now. And it's just always nice to have a spare indicator, because sometimes I get 2 or 3 setups going on, so I'm always tearing down the indicators. But I got a really, really cool thing from him this past week. And this is not solicited. He just sent this to me. And let's see here. We've got a lot of different things to go look at here tonight, but there you go. So I wrote the name down there, Indicare Gauge Repair. So one of the things I'd like to do tonight, if you're on Facebook or after the program, let's get this guy some likes. I can tell by the stuff he's doing and he's sending in, all right? This guy does really quality work. He's been doing it for over 30 years, right? He's a tool maker before that. And everything I get from him is perfect. There's not a scratch on it. So he sends me this indicator, which I mounted to one of my old surface gauges there, just for display purposes. And that is an old, I believe, Federal indicator. And I've got the whole story here. It's on a shelf I just can't barely reach. But you know what? Bear with me for 5 seconds. Let me just grab that sheet. All right, sorry about that. So let's look at this thing. So this is a letter from John. He sent this it's a letter, and he said, I was going through my collection of antique tools and indicators and came across an indicator that belongs in the tool chest of a true craftsman that loves tools and their history. So long story short, I cleaned this up this weekend, and I couldn't wait to UPS it to you this coming week. It's not only very old, but it also has definite historical importance. It's a Federal C3W AGD2 drop style indicator. The dial has numbers on it that are definitely similar to indicators from the 30s and 40s, plus the dial is made of solid brass. The most interesting part of the dial is the marking Allison Engine Company. In this era, Allison Engine Company had developed the V1710 C6 engine, which I did research. And this was the first 1,000 horsepower engine to ever pass the military's 150-hour test for the U.S. Army Air Corps. And for you guys who don't know that, that was the precursor of the Air Force. And the engine was eventually used in the P-38 Lightning, the P-39 Airacobra, and the P-40 Warhawk. This indicator with the distinct marking was used either on an inspection jig, a test stand, or a part testing fixture for this V1710 C6 engine, as it was the only engine being produced in this plant during this era. And he goes on to say, I think you deserve this one of these pieces of history, and thanks from me for your tremendous effort in keeping alive the pride in the tool and die trades and helping badly needed young men and women to become interested in learning this trade. Thank you. And this is signed John Shirkle. John, thank you. And I've never really owned something from World War II manufacturing era, so very proudly displayed. And that height gauge isn't used anymore, so I'm just going to leave it set up like that, and it'll be a great conversation piece, and I'm, again, very proud of it. So, again, you guys, if you get a minute, John, Indicator Gauge Repair, they do have a Facebook page, and let's give them a couple thumbs up out there. Obviously, some thumbs up are great. Obviously, sending him some tired old equipment would be a good idea that he could repair for you, and I can absolutely tell you you're going to be very happy with his work. So let's see. Let's get back to the normal page, but now we can leave that up for a minute. Lots of stuff tonight. I guess I could take just a second here. Just a second. Check out any new things on social media. Anybody? Let's see. God, there's a lot of people out there tonight. Let's see. Hi, Ken from Alabama. And hi, David. I don't know where David's from, though. He didn't put on there. Michigan, Brighton, Michigan. David. Timothy. Let's see. David's trying to call. Unavailable. Well, that's weird. I am so sorry to hear that. What's the deal? Let me just check this out. What's the deal? The do not disturb is not on. The phone should be just fine. So maybe I should just call the phone with my spare phone here. It just never ends here, folks. It never ends. Let's see here. You know what? I wonder, do I have the ringer? Everything seems to be ready to go here. Everything's full blast here, so I don't know why that call wouldn't come in. Let me try it from a phone here. And sometimes we have to do live tests here on the air. I apologize. But let's just see if I can get it to work. At least I'll know what the problem is. Well, it's not going to work because this phone doesn't have a SIM card in it anymore. All right, so I just use this for scanning social media. My mistake. We're all over the map tonight. So if you want to try again, let's try it again, Tim or David. I'm sorry. Let's try another call here. We'll take your call. Absolutely. That's why we're here. And this phone has worked beautifully for the first 18 weeks, and didn't think there was any need to retest it tonight. So if you want to give us a call one more time, let me know what's going on. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, that would be awesome. So let's see if we can get him on the line here. Let's see. Meanwhile, I've got Jackson MS. What's MS? Is that Mississippi? I think so. Eric from Warsaw, Indiana. Welcome, 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 all you guys. Thank you so much. So hopefully David can get through here, and we'll have a caller, and anybody else who wants to call in. But again, you're listening to Working Hands Radio. I'm Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die guy. So what's going on else out there? Well, interestingly enough, a couple days ago, for fun, I've always mentioned down here in the studio, I'm surrounded by a lot of history down here, and I save a lot of stuff. I'm not a pack rat because I don't really have enough room down here to be a pack rat, but I've saved a lot of materials from my apprenticeship. And one of the things I did manage to save for many years was all the stuff from my apprenticeship. And if you watched last week's program, I think it was a week before, I talked about apprenticeships. And I had all my grades and my hours and my contract for my wages. All that stuff was, I just kept it. It had all the detail for that, and all my engineering books, all of that. So one of the things I did come across, though, is I have all these great drawings, right? Because back then we didn't buy our own tools. Let me see if I can find one here. I've got a picture of a few things here, but should have a couple of sign bars here. There you go. Oh, one up. There you go. A couple of sign bars. It's a 10-inch and a 5-inch. So I saved all these drawings that they gave us to build these tools at Anson Tools and Gauges. And what I did was I scanned them all in, and for a while I was selling them printed off. Right now, the deal is with these drawings, right? They're not copyrighted. Anson Tools and Gauges is long gone, and I even called the company that bought them out, and they destroyed all those drawings. They don't exist. So luckily I saved them all. And there's several different tools here, and there's not only you get the 5-inch sign bar, there's 1, 2, 3 blocks, a solid square. I think there's 10 tools, all Toolmaker's Vice. So if you go to the Tool and Die Guide, if you just look at this Facebook page, there's a really nice link there. You can download them all. Like I said, I used to ship them, print them. The issue was the post office lost just enough of them, or the people were getting them for whatever reason. Wrong address, I don't know. But in the end, I'm still paying the printer and paying for the postage, and they're not getting them. So what I did this week is I just put them all up there for, you can just download them. Okay, and 90% of them you can just print right off your printer. And if you have access to a larger scale printer or plotter, you can probably just do that. They're all PDF files. So if you're interested in that, check it out. There's a link right at the top of this page. It's called I believe it's called thetoolanddieguide.com, and it's called The Blueprints. And it's at the top of this Facebook page. So if you'd like to get a hold of some vintage old drawings to work on, maybe you're a hobbyist and like to do this stuff, you need something to work on instead of just thinking of different things to do. These are real plans, and like I said, there's that actual 5-inch sign bar there. I did build that, and of course the work I was doing was so large, and the angles I had to set up were along such large areas. I decided to go with the 10-inch sign bar too. And I think I told the story before. I stayed after work and learned how to engrave running a pantograph because I thought the pantograph was the coolest machine I ever saw in my life. That thing was cool. So let's see here. Is Timothy or David still trying to call? Still nothing. Interesting. I have no clue. why the phone would not be taking a call tonight. I don't know. That is really too bad. So why don't I take a few minutes here and see if I can solve this, and you can listen to me gab a few minutes on a commercial, and we'll be right back, because that's the main reason I'm down here tonight, right, is to listen to you guys. So let me see what I have here. What do I have here that we can just enjoy for just 1 minute? All right. Do you All right. I just did a test phone call here, so it works. So I don't know what you guys are doing out there. I don't know if you're dialing maybe one digit off, because we got it here. We're good to go. The technology is working, and sorry I had to stop and do that. There's Indicare again. Let's remember to give this guy a shout out tonight, but John Shirk. So let's make sure we've got that phone number up there. Maybe I'm not leaving it up there long enough for you guys to get it right. So let's try that. There we go. 870-870-1648. During that commercial there, that I literally had to run upstairs and grab a phone and try my 800 number, because I always get worried it's me, and I always assume it's my problem, but it might not be this time. I don't think it is. So once again, David, let's make sure we got the right number there and give it a shot, because we're still here. It's interesting. That brings up another point. It's interesting after so many years in trade, right? When I see something wrong on a part, let's say I'm building something or I'm checking something, and I look at it and it doesn't measure right, and then let's say it came from another department, I immediately assume I'm checking it wrong. Okay, I never ever want to place the blame immediately on somebody else. There's a little bit of a trend once in a while I see in shops. They like to make sure that they're not at fault, so they blame other people. But they checked it totally wrong. So if they would have just checked it right in the first place, or double check it, because I know the guys that usually send me work, I know which guys it came from. They usually do excellent work. So when something's off, I double check myself before I go talk to them, right? Because I'm assuming I'm checking it wrong. So that's built into this program, is what I'm trying to say. When the phone call, when I get a thing on Facebook that the phone calls aren't coming through, I'm assuming I've got an issue here with my 800 number, and I want to fix that. Okay, that's my people-pleasing attitude here, and that's why I ran upstairs and grabbed the cordless and tried the phone number, and it went right through. So, David, if you're still out there, please give us a call. We're here. Again, let's just make sure we get the right number. 800-870-1648. So, with that being said, I have to say that, and there's the same number, 800-870-1648. This is we've been doing this for quite a while now. What's he getting here? David. He can't get through. He says, somebody else, please try. So, anybody out there wants to be a guinea pig and try this number, 800-870-1648. And let's see what happens. It might be on my end, and David, don't take it personally. I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but maybe there's a connection issue on your end. I don't know. So I need a little help here, guys. Somebody needs to call in. You can be my guinea pig, and I'll throw in a free hat. All right? All right. Smart line. I see there's something going on with the smart line, but for some reason, I don't know why it would not be picking up. So what's this guy saying? Russell wants to know, is there a topic for calling in? There's always, we kind of go with open phones here, Russell, but, we usually tend to talk about things related to manufacturing. Maybe you're a shop owner. I'm always looking for shop owners to call and tell us a little bit about their story. Maybe you're an apprentice. Hey, if you're going to take on this trade, and we love to hear from you guys, and we'd like to hear what you're up to. Maybe you're an apprentice. Maybe you're the smart line. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm getting interrupted here. It says, it looks like there's activity. It says I'm missing calls. And then I might have a setting off here, guys, and I have to apologize for that. I don't know. It says they're coming through, but it's not ringing. That's the issue. It's not ringing. Now it is. All right, let's see here. So this is the person that finally figured this out. Who's calling?
My name's John Pepler, and I just wanted to maybe interject if I could. I've never called him before.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Did you have trouble getting through also?
Pardon me?
Did you have any trouble getting through?
This is the second time I called. The first time I said that they were either on the air busy or not on the air at all.
Okay. Well, I don't know what the issue was, but I think we're all good to go here. So what's on? Your name's John, right?
Yep, John Pepler, yep.
And again, where are you calling from, John?
Brighton, Michigan.
Brighton, Michigan.
Outside Detroit, yeah.
And what do you do up there, John?
I run a little machine shop right now, and I've built molds and done all kinds of stuff.
Now, how long have you? Is this your own shop, or you run one for somebody else?
I run one for somewhere else. I used to own my own shop, and I just thought wondering about doing it again, but by myself this time. But just trying to get the I guess, roll the balls.
Right. Well, you know, I think manufacturing was always a little bit scary of a business to get into because of the fact that the capital involved, you know, and if you made a mistake, you could lose everything, you know. I mean, but at least back then, they were letting you make a few bucks. So if you did make a mistake, you at least maybe didn't make as much money, but you didn't lose your all your profit on a mistake. It's so lean now. I don't think there's any room for mistakes.
Right. Yeah, I feel like now I quote everything. I've got the customers on my own, and you know, I've got a relationship going, but it's just a matter of pulling the trigger or trying to get it going. But like you said, there's so many facets to it, and I think it's easier with QuickBooks today. I've talked to a few guys, but I don't know, sometimes you're comfortable, you get complacent when you keep getting a paycheck versus wondering how you're going to get it, you know?
I understand that. I agree. Now, how big's the shop you're running now?
Oh, it's just me and a lady, and another lady does our shipping. We make camera equipment. We make time-lapse photography equipment.
Okay.
And so I just got a couple Haas's, and I used to build injection molds, tight tolerance S7 molds. I've worked on P20, worked on checking fixtures, but it seems like the way things have gone, just running a CNC mill and just doing details is kind of the new thing instead of building tools from scratch, you know.
Now, quickly here, those beeps you're hearing, if you're listening to the program, those are people trying to call in. We've just got the one line here, so if I'm on with somebody, you're not going to get through. So you kind of have to wait until we finish here, and then we'll take some more calls, because I'll stay here all night if you guys want to keep calling in. So anyways, John, so you were trained as a mold maker, though?
Tool and die.
Tool and die?
I did an apprenticeship in Michigan, yeah, and I never really worked on dies too much. I primarily worked on special machines and checking fixtures and weld fixtures, and then I went to a big mold shop, and that's when I started learning molds. And then I started doing the manifolds. We built bumper molds, huge molds, 60,000, 70,000 pound tools. We built our own manifolds, did the details, and then I left there, and then I started doing small injection molds in Port Huron, Michigan. And then I owned my own business in 1999. We started a place called Unity Mold, and it's just, you know, I've got a background of bouncing around and moving all over the place, but it just seems to me now there's not as many shops, and I certainly wouldn't be able to start a mold shop because of all the machines you need.
Oh, I agree. And like I said, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the program, you know, you don't want to lose those mold shops. You know, I mean, I think they're vital to national security. I mean, I really do. I think once you don't have tool and die shops anymore and die makers, tool and die makers, you're going to be at a big loss, because there's not a lot of guys getting into this now.
Yeah. You know, the only thing I don't like about the trade is I work 40 hours right now. I manage to just work 4 days, and I love it.
Right.
And I used to always work 6 days, and it's just the thought of if that place goes under or whatever, and I got to work somewhere else. It's just like, oh, it's nice to at least have 2 days off, but it seems like it's the one thing that to me is just not the funnest thing in the trade, you know.
Well, I agree with you. Until I was 43 years old, I worked every Saturday in my life. When I finally took a Saturday off, I felt like I was homeless, like I should be in the unemployment line, right? Because that was just the deal. It was 10 hours a day and half a day Saturday. I mean, that was our deal. And then, of course, you know, if there was a brush job or something, you know, you could end up pulling a lot more hours for a couple of weeks, but the standard work week was 10 hours a day, 5 hours on Saturday. Does that sound familiar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
did all those mold shops that were up there, and I know there were some big ones in Detroit that used to build, like you said.
High-tech mold.
Yeah, so these big shops that built these dashboard molds and these bumper molds, are they still around, or did they all leave?
Well, there's still the big guys in town. High-tech mold ways to work, proper mold. There's a few others, but yeah, they're out there still, but they're working. I remember, when you tried to go home after 10 hours, they said, "I can't believe it. I'm disappointed that you're only working 10 hours
Right,
a day."
right.
So,
But I don't know.
advantage, sorry.
I don't know what your story was, but I did all that when I was much younger, and it wasn't that hard. I always tell people, 10 hours a day in a tool and die shop or a mold shop, to me, went really fast. You were so busy with, it was just a lot to do. You weren't just running one part all day. You electrodes and ejector pins and core pins and supervising apprentices. Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful trade that way, because there was such a hierarchy in the shop, coming up and working your way up through and becoming a lead mold maker. And so, I get what you're saying, but the good news is I put all my 55 and 60-hour work weeks in for the most part before I was 40, the real crazy hours. But that's where the money was, right? That's where the real money was.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I'm 52 now, and I started when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got out of it for a little bit, did plumbing and heating, but it's kind of like a boomerang. I come back, and now it's in demand, but maybe if I have to go somewhere else, if I don't decide to start my own thing, then I can kind of say, look, I'll work 5 days, 50 hours, but that's it. If they don't want me, then,
Right.
I don't know. But then it causes static, because then you have other people that may have to work Saturday. It's a fine line, like you said, being a business owner.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to call tonight from up there in Michigan.
Thank you.
And please call again. And thanks for being my first caller, because I know some people were having trouble getting through. So hopefully that opens the floodgates. A lot of times after we get one call, everybody realizes I don't bite. So thank you, and have a really great night.
And thank you for all you do.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Good day.
You too. All right. Well, success at last. Okay, so this is the way it works. So I see I got a thing on Facebook that says my call went to voicemail. If I'm on with somebody else, that's what it's going to do. I don't have a bank of phone lines here yet, folks. So if you still want to call in, we're here, and you can certainly do that now, because I think we've proven that the technology is working. So thank you, John. Thank you, John, for that phone call. And we have another phone call. All right. The floodgates have opened. Go ahead, caller. This is Working Hands Radio. Hello, you're on Working Hands Radio.
Yes, Tyler from Michigan.
Hi, Tyler. How are you doing? David, right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Pretty good.
Okay. All right.
Yep, I can hear you.
All right.
Apologize ahead of time. I'm kind of on mistake, so.
Not a problem. So, what part of you're from Michigan also?
Yeah, I'm from Allegan, Michigan.
Okay. And what do you do up there?
I just started my apprenticeship about 2 months ago at a tool and die shop.
Wow. Is that a big tool and die shop?
It's a decent size. I can't tell you exactly how many people we're running. Probably around 20, 25 on the floor.
Okay. That's a nice size to learn a lot. You can learn a lot with a shop that size. You won't get lost there,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was kind of my question was, my grandfather, he comes from union shops. He worked for General Motors all his life, and he told me to start, in a, good-sized, smaller shop, kind of learn the basics before you go into something like that. And I was just kind of curious what your opinion was on, either starting in a union shop or starting in a smaller shop.
Well, I'll give you my honest opinion on that, and it'll probably get me in trouble, but I hope you appreciate an honest opinion. around here, I'm just going to go by what my experience has been. And around here, we used to have so many tool and die shops. You usually got a pretty good apprenticeship. Now, I was really lucky because the apprenticeship I went through, they took it very seriously, okay? And they really watched my hours. I got a good 4-year apprenticeship. And I don't know if is your apprenticeship going to be 4 years?
Yes, yeah, 4 years.
4 years. And then I went in and I started my own shop. Now, I might be skewed here. My opinion might be different. But, you know, when I started my own shop, I hired a couple guys from some of the big union shops that were tool makers. They were terrible. They weren't good at all. All right? So I'm not saying they're bad machinists. All I know in Erie, Pennsylvania, the tool makers that came out of the union shops, they just weren't that good. They weren't very precise. And, of course, they came in with a kind of an attitude of, you know, the union attitude sometimes, you know, they want the big bucks and they want the benefits. And, you know, as a small shop owner, not much I could do with that. So, you know, is the shop you're in now a union shop?
Yeah.
Is your shop union now?
No, it is not.
Okay. You'll have the chance, I believe, at a place like that to independently grow as fast as you can, with nobody telling you to slow down, nobody telling you can't touch that machine because that's not in your job description. You're going to do just fine in a small 25-man shop. Is a beautiful size shop to learn a lot because you won't get lost.
Yeah. That's one thing I've kind of liked too is, you know, I'm kind of the only one my age. There's me and I'm 22 and there's a 24-year-old and the rest of them, you know, are late 30s and up. And so, you know, it's been nice. I just get, you know, handfuls of information every day, you know, oh, you can do this different, you can do this different, you can do it this way, you know. And that's what I really appreciate about working there because everybody's kind of watching out for you and teaching you things.
Well, and that's the thing. You won't. I guess the bad news is too. You won't be able to hide in a 25-man shop. They will find you. You know.
No.
So, is it a pretty modern shop? You got a lot of nice equipment.
Yeah, it's I would say modern equipment. I mean, we've got bliss presses. I know those are, you know, I know our oldest one I think is 1920 something. I think some of our later equipment is maybe 1980s, but I mean, I think our newest stuff is probably like our wire EDM and our CNC machines.
And what kind of products are you building? What do you guys specialize in?
We do truck frames for Ford and General Motors, and then we do tops and bottoms for like water heaters and a few other items.
Okay, but it is a tool and die shop, though, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right, and you've been there 2 months?
Yeah, we do mainly prog dies.
Okay.
What was that?
And you've been there 2 months?
Yeah, I've been there for 2 months now.
Okay. And do you like it?
Oh, I love it.
All right. That's what we want
I've
to
been
hear.
trying to get in it for a little while now, but every shop I've gone to, you know, they've told me, well, you need some experience, and I'm, you know, well, how do I get experience if you aren't going to let me in? And then I got into a program through the state, and that's who got me into here.
Now, can I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 22.
22. That's cool. That's great. So those are the phone calls that everybody listening to this program wants to hear. We're still looking for guys that are getting into the trade. And did you go to any college, or it was the trade's kind of the way you were leaning?
I went to college for about a year and a half for engineering and just decided that really wasn't the route I wanted to go. So I just kind of took up the family trade.
Okay, so a lot of people in your family were in the tool and die trade?
Yeah, my grandpa, two of my uncles, and then we got some machinists and CNC machinists too.
All right. Well, I know the feeling. My family's been doing this for over 100 years. And yeah, it's a very rewarding thing, and I'm sure they're very happy to see you in the trade now yourself. You know, it's pretty cool. Well, I appreciate you taking.
Yeah, they're pretty happy for me. They're glad I went this route.
Good for you. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to call in tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, have a good night. All right. Now, it was funny during that phone call. You kept hearing a lot of beeps because everybody was calling in again. So I don't know what's going on tonight, but you guys are more than welcome to keep. We're obviously back available again. So again, as I said, if I'm on the phone with a call, it's just going to be because I can't take 2 calls at once. And what would I do if I could? It says I can put them on hold. You know, with all the issues we had tonight, and let me tell you a little funny story about that tonight. When I first started doing things online, teleseminars and things, you know, bad things can happen on the internet, right? In fact, I should always warn people. I live in a nice neighborhood here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and for some reason over the last month or so, I lose my power like once a day for like a second. All right, but what does that do? Of course, shuts all the computers off. In fact, I would be in solid darkness here. But technology is the way it is. You just can't freak out. So let's take another phone call. Good evening. You're on Working Hands Radio. Who's this?
Hello, this is David.
Hi, David.
Timothy. I was trying to call earlier, and the phone was malfunctioning, I guess.
I don't know what the deal was with that, so thanks for your persistence. So I'm sorry I don't have this.
Indeed.
Where are you calling from?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, right down the street.
Absolutely.
I enjoy Cleveland. We get our way up there about once or twice a year. We have our favorite restaurant in downtown Cleveland. I don't know if you ever heard of Johnny's Downtown.
Not super familiar.
Okay.
I live in the suburbs.
Okay.
I work out in the suburbs and the country, so
Okay.
I don't spend a whole lot of time in the metropolitan areas.
Well, and I don't blame you. It's good for a night, you know. So what
Absolutely.
So what do you do?
Well, I figured I'd call in. This is the second time that I've heard your radio program. In 2003, I decided that I was going to go to vocational school, and they have a local vocational school called Polaris by me. It's part of the Berea City School District. And I told my dad I wanted to be a mechanic. And he told me, if you want your elbows to last, past the time you're about 45 years old, you're not going to do that. So instead, I decided to go into the machining trade and took the classes there for that. And I've been doing machine work since 2005.
2005
is when I graduated from high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And are you happy with the trade?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have a wonderful home and wonderful children, and I guess I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing right now.
Now,
I love building things with my hands.
There you go. You called the right program, that's for sure. What's your specialty?
Yeah.
Everybody has a specialty. Is there something you enjoy more or better at than other things?
Well, the shop that I work at, we have no CNC machines, not even a computer in the shop floor at all. I run Lucas machines, boring mills.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 3, 4, and a 5-inch Lucas.
Those are big.
And a bunch of engine lathes. Everything we have is manual, and we make plastic injection molding machine barrels.
Okay.
We make the barrels where I work.
Okay, I'm familiar with those.
So, we are machining actually it's like a carbide inlay on the ID on these guys. They're pretty nice. It's cool stuff.
Cool stuff. And how big's how big's your shop? How many guys?
Well, we got 10 guys.
That's a nice size. And you've worked there and you've been there pretty much since 2005?
13 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
nice.
business is good.
Yeah, right now we're really, really busy. But like you were talking about before, a lot of jobs going overseas and stuff disappearing. Probably half the work I do is getting messed up parts from China, and then they bring them to where I work, and we repair them because half the stuff dimensionally is screwed up.
You know. I always wondered if people just stopped repairing that stuff and and just if everybody worked together and said we're not touching it if it came from China, what would happen? I know everybody wants the work,
and it's miserable.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. The shop owners want the work, so they'll take it. But if every shop owner would sit back and say, you know what? Sorry, if you want to get your stuff built in China, send it back there and get it fixed. I wonder what would happen. I'm not saying it would work, but I think it would work. What else would they do?
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's plenty of times I've said that to my boss man.
Yep.
So.
But sometimes you just gotta take the work. I know I've been on the other side of the fence too, and I repaired molds that were built in China, and I didn't like it. But you know what? You got to pay the bills too. So.
Yeah. It's not like we don't have enough work already. That's almost like a nuisance part because, I got 1,000 other things going on too. So.
Right. How many hours a week do you work?
About 45, 50, depends. I usually work 6 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Beautiful. Well, how did you find out about the program? I'm always curious.
What was that again?
How did you find out about the program, Working Hands Radio?
I found it on Facebook.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
the reason we do this is to take phone calls like this from you guys, because this is where we all start hearing what's going on. So I've gotten calls from Michigan tonight, now Cleveland, Ohio, and it's fun to hear from you guys. And a lot of the guys that are calling in will have one thing in common: they're all working for kind of smaller places that are probably more nimble and and don't have the overhead of a large place. But they're young guys, but they're taking young guys in and they're learning the trade. So that's always good news. It's for guys my age and a lot of the people who listen to this program. That's the reason we tune in. We want to hear the success stories. So I really appreciate you taking the time to call in tonight.
Yeah, and I had my apprenticeship under probably the grumpiest old German guy that ever existed, and I tell you what, I learned a hell of a lot of stuff from that dude. He was a really, really good guy.
Yep,
He's still around.
You don't want
to. In from time to time. I do all the drafting at our shop by hand, pencil and paper. So that's something that I learned from him.
Well,
another thing that I enjoy doing.
One of the things I always tell people that the table I'm broadcasting from tonight is a drafting table. It was my drafting table when I owned my shop. My wife would love to see this leave, and I just can't get rid of it. And it works out great for the radio program, though. But I was trained as a draftsman originally, so I've got all my pencils and all that stuff. I love to draw. If I could have a dream job right now, I could make any money at it. I'd love to draw. It's such an art, right?
Yeah, it's something that I never really had any aspiration to do, but now love to do more than anything. I love it. I do all my own drawings for the little widgets and robot parts and stuff that I make at home and everything. It's wonderful.
Well, you know what? If you get some time, my YouTube channel, The Tool and Die Guy, about 6 months or a year ago, I put up a time-lapse video of me making a drawing, and I put some music to it, and you can see me drafting. So just you have to kind of look for it on The Tool and Die Guy, but find The Tool and Die Guy on YouTube. You might get a kick out of that. My one person who will enjoy watching me draw.
Cool.
All right.
Well, hey, I appreciate your time, and I'm glad finally getting through to you.
Very good. I don't know what the issue was, but thanks for your patience, and please don't be a stranger. We always love to hear from guys like you, okay?
All right. Have a nice day.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Well, okay. So as I was saying, of course, the phone lines are open, and if it rings, I'll take the call. So, but what I was saying earlier, when you do a lot of work online and things happen, it's easy to freak out, right? Like, oh my God, But now, if it happens, it happens. You just have to deal with it. So, we had a little issue tonight with the phone line. I don't know what it was, and I don't know if I have to test it before the next program. But I don't know what it was. I don't. It seems to be working fine, and I didn't do anything different than when the phone calls weren't working. So you just remain calm. There's a few dead spots tonight where I had to check it out, but we got through it, right? Once you build a couple $100,000 molds. Phone lines not working sometimes just aren't that big of a deal, right? So we ran over a little bit tonight. So listen, I want to talk to you guys about something tonight. If you're listening still, we've been doing this. The phone started to ring and we lost it. So I'm still here. Go ahead. Try again. Again, we've got a weird connection here tonight. Just a weird connection. It's the gremlins and the internet. That's just the way it goes. Working on off a phone that's wireless, and just all sorts of different things can happen. So please, if you just tried to call in, you may call in again. Even though we're running over, I'll sit here all night and take the phone call. It's not a problem. So we started this program back on January 9th of this year, and we originally started broadcasting from WJET 1400 AM, and it was an interesting experience, and the radio station was a lot of fun to work or go down there every night. And basically what we did there was we bought an hour's worth of time, right? And we got some sponsors to get that going because you have to pay for the radio time, and but we did that for about 12 weeks. And the reality was a lot of the interaction I get with this program is through Facebook, and that's how I was monitoring the show. So when I looked at the expense, and also having to drive 20 minutes down to the radio station in the dead of winter, especially Erie, Pennsylvania winters, especially this past January, I said, you know what, I wonder if I could set the same thing up at the house. So we do. It took me about 6 weeks to kind of really figure this technology out. Facebook Live's no big deal. The video's another deal. But then the soundboard, the microphone, taking the phone calls, all had to be put together. So again, this is I believe our 19th broadcast. So here's where we're at. I enjoy doing this. This is a dream come true for me to get you guys online and talk to you guys about the trade and let other guys hear you guys talk about the trade again, because they don't need to hear from me all the time. I do enough online as the tool and die guy. But what we have to look at now here is this is turning into a hobby now that my brother who passed away would say a non-paying hobby, right? So what I would like to talk to you about for just a second is if you love this trade and you love the program and you see what I'm trying to do here, we need a little support. And, manufacturers don't tend to get the advertising, and this really isn't advertising, right? It's goodwill, and it's patronage, and it's support. But what we can do for you there is I know a lot of manufacturers don't have time to do their Facebook work or whatever like that. And Facebook's a big part of getting your name out there. So if anybody's out there, I need like 3 people to step up. I'm pretty cheap here. But if you'd like me to take over your Facebook page, not take it over, what I can do is send you a lot of traffic. All right, you send me some pictures, and I'll get you some traffic. You'll be an official sponsor of the Tool and Die Guy Working Hands radio page and of the program. And if you're a sponsor of the program, we have you on as a guest to talk about or somebody from your company if you don't want to do it. So take a look at that. Right. So there is a link here that you can find out more about this, but I don't think I've added on there the thing that I can also help you with your Facebook stuff by sending you some traffic. Because if you're not getting, there's no sense in having a Facebook page if you're not sending people there and you're not interacting with them. So what we want to do there is make sure that you're seen as a support of the trade by supporting this program, and in return, I'll make sure people get over to support you a little bit. Okay. So as I say all the time, I firmly believe there's nothing else like this program out there on the web. And I know that's true because I know you guys. You tell me if there was, right? You tell me in a heartbeat. So if you do own a shop or a business that's related to manufacturing, we can get your name out there to thousands of folks a month. And, the reality is, too, on my Facebook page, my engagement's through the roof. And that's what you want. Likes are great. But I routinely engage over 25 to 30,000 people a month. So I get those stats. That's the beautiful part about the internet. So we get a lot of engagement here. So they can all work together, but we're running out of time here for Working Hands Radio. May have to find something else to do here. So if you'd like to support, there's the link right there, the toolanddieguy.com, support Working Hands Radio. If you'd like to take a moment there and listen, if you're just a listener and would like to just donate a little bit, we'll take it. But if you have the money to step up as a sponsor, that's all there too. Okay? So I cannot self-fund this forever, you guys, because I'm like you. I don't own a shop anymore. So again, you can sponsor the program, and I'll sponsor my Tool and Die Guy page, and then it's for like a 10-week thing, 10 weeks, and see how it goes. So just want to say, had a few minor technical issues tonight. We went over, missed one of our longest shows, but thanks for all you guys for calling in from Wisconsin and from Michigan and from Cleveland. That's awesome. As I always say, we're here to tell your stories, and I guess we'll hear one more. We have another phone call. Let's take it. Why not? Hey, go ahead. This is Working Hands Radio. Who's this?
Oh, awesome. I got through. How you doing?
Good. Who's this?
My name's Russ.
Russ? And where are you calling from, Russ?
I'm calling from Oak Harbor, Washington.
Washington. So you're way out there. So what do you do there?
I'm an avionics tech for the Navy.
Oh, man. That sounds like a really cool job. Is that a really cool job?
It's all right.
Okay. So, but you're in the Navy, right?
Yeah, I'm in the Navy. I do a little like sourcing and whatnot on the side, and have like a hobby grade machine and whatnot.
Okay. So, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah. One of the reasons I called in was I think last time or maybe last week you had something about millennials, and I kind of chimed in saying, I've been trying to get an apprenticeship. I even posted in it, hey, looking for somebody to teach me a few things. I'll work for free. I'm in the Navy, no stranger to swabbing decks or trading labor for knowledge. So, but the response I got was like, this guy's too motivated. In a couple of years, I'm going to be competing with him. Oh. And I just kind of got the impression that everybody was real guarded with the knowledge. And if you actually read that thread in the group, people had said that exact thing, like, we want you just smart enough to run the machine, but I don't want to compete against you. So just kind of curious if maybe you had ever gotten that vibe,
no.
Was my response kind of like a unique thing?
I think it's a unique thing. I've never had that issue. Are you talking about from the actual shop owners or from the people who would be teaching you?
No, I'm talking about the response I got online, and also from shop owners. When I was going around certain places in Jacksonville, because I was previously in Jacksonville, just there was no interest. Like nobody was interested in, I guess, teaching anybody for free. So, and I probably went to 3 or 4 shops in Jacksonville. So that's just kind of been my story is, no luck. Couldn't even get my foot in the door.
So are you saying you'd like to learn machining? That's what you'd really rather do than what you're doing now when you get out of the Navy?
Yeah. I'm teaching myself, I can, I can set up parts and whatnot on a small hobby grade machine, which is, some experience, better than nothing, I guess.
Right. So do you have your own hobby machine?
Yeah, I have, I have a 3D printer, I have a laser, and I also have a small CNC router. So. Well,
that's pretty impressive. What, you got out in the garage?
Yep, out in the garage, just making parts for vaporizers and whatnot, and if there's stuff that I can't make, I'm on, there's tons of little websites like MFG where you can do sourcing, and so I post jobs up there for guys with better machines and have them bid on it.
What? And are you getting any jobs from that?
Yeah, so I actually am making a lot less parts now. I kind of scour the web and Facebook for people who are kind of like me that are hobbyist 3D printing parts, and I go, hey, I can get this part made for you. And I use, the online sources to find a shop who can hit a price point that they want. Some guys have me make stuff and they say, hey, I want it made in the USA. And typically, I get a lot of work out of Anaheim in California for shops that tend to be really competitive with China. Because, that's who a lot of my customers are competing against with their products.
Well, this is fascinating. So you are actually running a little business out of your house then, building stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been doing that. So it started out as a retail thing. I was making vaporizers with a company in California and retailing them. And then the regulation in the U.S. kind of scared me out of it. I didn't want to be I didn't want to have anybody come down on me and say, hey, you're making electronic cigarette parts you're not supposed to make without these marketing licenses. So I stopped and started just using what I learned from that to help to find customers and to find other people that might need help making their parts, kind of, moving on from 3D printing to machining or whatnot.
That is really fascinating. Do you make any money at this? I have to ask.
Yeah. So, I just charge $100 an hour for my time. And, that's, I have no overhead. So.
May I ask how much?
It's pretty easy to make money.
How much have you? How much? That's a good problem to have.
So,
may I ask how much you've invested?
Yeah. So I didn't. Did you say how much I invested?
Yeah, but how much have you invested in your equipment so far?
Oh gosh. Well, so I would say 90% of the stuff that I do is finding other people to make the stuff, because I just have small hobby machines, but I've only invested less than $5,000.
Okay.
I have a cheap 40-watt CO2 laser, and the 3D printer is something that I just use to get a cheap physical part in hand. And then the router I really just use for my own just my own growth and personal knowledge. Like, I've made some small panels and stuff like that in it, but most of it is help other people get their stuff made.
That's interesting. Why don't you send me an email? I'd like to follow up with you a little bit more on what you're doing there. My email is pretty simple.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just workinghandsradio@gmail. Kind of long. workinghandsradio.
workinghandsradio@gmail.
Yeah, and just remind me who you are, because I had several calls tonight. But I'd like to catch up with you a little bit on what you're doing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for taking my call.
Not a problem. My pleasure. Have a great night.
Hey, you too.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, we've set a record here tonight. This is the longest the program's ever run, and this is pretty good stuff here. So, again, we'll try to close it one more time. Maybe I should just shut the phone down now. Maybe I should do that, because we'll never get to the end here. So that's what I think I'm going to do here. We need to end the show here. All right. So again, thank you so much. Again, I'm Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, and really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. There's a lot of phone calls, and again, that's why we're here. Not to listen to Phil Kerner, to hear from you guys. And I think other people appreciate hearing your stories too. And I'm just the facilitator, you guys. I'm just the facilitator. So if you like Working Hands Radio, like I said, you want to support the program, because we got to have some support now. We're at that point. Critical mass has been reached. All the other programs are up there, so just go to Working Hands Radio at the Tool and Die Guy page, and then there's that other link I did show you earlier. Support Working Hands Radio at the Tool and Die Guy. Just check that out. Got to thank ISM. Give them a big shout out tonight. The Krakowski family for having the faith in me to back this program up a little bit. Thank you guys. And again, I always say we produce this program by ourselves, right? For the love of working with your hands. Because we believe here at Working Hands Radio, working with your hands is cool. So again, I'm the Tool and Die Guy. If you guys need any lessons from me, there's always a special up there at thetoolanddieguy.com. 343 lessons are up there. Check it out. You can save a couple bucks tonight if you go over there. 343 lessons at thetoolanddieguy.com. And again, thank you for tuning in. And finally, let's end with this tonight. A man who works with his hands is a laborer. A man who works with his hands and his brain is a craftsman. But a man who works with his hands, his brain, and his heart is an artist. So that's it from here. Until next week, I'm Phil Kerner. Keep the faith, and we'll see you next Tuesday night. Hopefully we should be back.